Hey, good morning or good afternoon, depending where you're at. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer, and I want to answer your questions today about winning asylum in America. This is the Asylum Answers Show where you ask questions about asylum and I answer them. We're going to talk about asylum. So, uh, welcome. Glad you're here. Hey, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. How's it going? Good morning. It's Friday. We've almost made it to the weekend. Say hello before you start leaving all your questions, all the things you're dying to know about winning asylum in the United States. Before all that, I want to know where you're watching from. Say hello. Let me know where you guys are at. I just like to see where you guys are at, where this community of asylum seekers is. Oh, we already got someone. Israr on TikTok says from MN for Minnesota. I love Minnesota. That's where I went to law school. Uh, I love it up there. It's beautiful up there. It's nice. It's good living up in Minnesota. I always tell people Minnesota always ranks number one or number two when you see like these surveys of overall quality of life in the United States of like where people are really happy, happiness and overall quality of life rankings. Minnesota's always up there. It's good living up there. Jonathan or Wynathan says, "Hey, good to see you. Glad you're here. Thanks for being here on TikTok. We got LinkedIn, we got Facebook, we got YouTube. Good morning or good afternoon for so I'm in Texas. My law firm is based in Texas, but we have people all over the country. Where we are, it's morning. It's 11:37. Over on the East Coast, it's 12:37 already in the afternoon. We have lots of clients in Texas, of course, where we're based. We got lots of clients on the East Coast, lots in Florida, New York, on the West Coast too, lots in California, Washington State. Good morning, good afternoon. Hey guys, this is the Asylum Answer Show. So I'm Brian Manning. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now I'm an asylum lawyer. And as a lawyer, well, I have a law firm called Political Asylum Lawyers. And we help immigrants all over the country, all over, doesn't matter where you are, all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Asylum is what we do all day, every day. We focus on asylum. So I want to know what questions you have about winning asylum in the United States. Hey, good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Good to see you for asylum, Jonathan. Yes, good to see you. Thank you for being here. TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Good morning. Good morning. All right, let's go to actually, before I get to your questions, let me just tell you this. You can kind of appeal a final denial from USCIS. Look, I just made a YouTube video about this. It's going to be posted like probably Monday. But I thought I would share it with you guys as well, with this community, that when you have legal status, like let's say you still, at the moment you receive a negative decision from USCIS, let's say that you still have in that moment your tourist status, or you still have student status, or maybe temporary protected status, TPS. Um, and uh, if you have that status at the moment when you get uh, this negative decision, you don't get sent to immigration court. You don't get put in deportation proceedings. You get what's called a notice of intent to deny, and then you have 16 days to respond in writing and basically refute the officer's reasoning for why they think you don't qualify for asylum. If you are not successful, they'll say, okay, we're going to make a final decision. And they look, and if you still have legal status in that moment, then they give you what's called a final denial. They say, asylum denied. You don't want asylum. Your case is over. But they don't put you in deportation proceedings. They don't send you to immigration court because you have this other status, right? And they just let you be with that other status. You cannot technically appeal this final denial from USCIS. However, you can effectively appeal it. What do I mean by that? There is something called a motion to reconsider that you can file with USCIS to ask them to take another look at it, at your case. It's basically an appeal. There's no technical form for this. Like there's no, the asylum application, form I-589. There's no form for this motion to reconsider with the asylum office, but it is something that exists, and their regulations talk about it. And you're basically, they're supposed to change their decision if you convince them that the officer made an egregious error, is the standard, egregious error in your case. They just really got it wrong, right? Um, well, it's almost impossible to win these. When I was in an asylum office, in fact, it's so rare, and most lawyers don't even know about it. Most immigration lawyers don't even know this exists, this possibility. When I was an asylum officer with the government, I literally never saw anyone try this. My law firm, we tried it a few times and we lost. And I thought it was probably pretty much impossible. I mean, we told our clients, like, look, I've never heard of this working. Hardly anyone ever even tries it. It's probably not going to work. Almost certainly not going to work, but they wanted to do it anyway. So we did. We did it a few times and it didn't work. However, last week, I think it was last week, maybe the week before, it worked. We won. We got a motion to reconsider approved, and they actually granted asylum. They changed their minds. This was a case from Venezuela, and the officer made some big errors. Like they did some things in the case that we think were clearly errors. They messed up big time, and we convinced the director of the asylum office to overturn their decision. So it's extremely rare. It's very hard to do. We don't take most cases. Like, people sometimes ask us about this, and we rarely take these cases because we tell them there's very little chance for success. And based on the facts of the case, we usually tell them, no, sorry, we can't do it. But every once in a while, we think, yeah, this one actually has a chance. And now we know that it is in fact possible to actually win these because we won one. Our client won asylum after getting a final denial because we did the motion to reconsider. We worked really hard on the legal brief we did for it, and we changed their minds, and we won the case. So what I'm saying is, if you get a final denial from USCIS, it's not impossible to still win your case. It's very hard, very low chance for success, but it's not impossible. You should talk with an asylum lawyer immediately after getting that final denial, because you only have 30 days to file this motion to reconsider. You only have 30 days. It's a limit, okay? That's what I want you to know. Let's go to the questions then. Good morning, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. I'm Brian Manning for those who just joined recently, and I used to be an asylum officer, but now I'm an asylum lawyer, and we help immigrants, in my law firm, we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. If you want to talk with us about that, about whether we might be able to help you in your asylum case, I want you to go to this webpage, winasylum.com. Go to winasylum.com and schedule a consultation with one of our asylum professionals. All right, go to winasylum.com. All right, so let's go to the questions. We got Sajid who says, well, first of all, Sajid says, we prepared from your questions and all the questions were the same ones that were asked. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Sajid, I'm guessing you're talking about this. I'm going to put this in here. Asylumquestions.com. That is the training that you're talking about, where I basically tell you what questions they're going to ask you in your asylum interview, right? Sajid, is that what it is? The training, like the one that's called 133 interview questions I guarantee you'll be asked in your interview, something like that. That is, I just put it in the chat. It's asylumquestions.com is where you can find that. Sajid just said on TikTok that at his interview, the questions they asked him were the ones I said that they would ask him in this training. Okay. I know what they're going to ask you guys. I know what they're going to ask you because I used to be an asylum officer. Before that, I was a diplomat with the government, and I've adjudicated thousands of immigration cases. Okay. And I have a pretty good sense, I think, for what kind of questions you're going to get. Oh, nice. On the same lines, Karim Bilger says, hi, Brian, I won my case and your explanations helped me a lot. So, Karim, to be clear, you're not one of our clients. I'm guessing you're not one of our clients, but you're saying that, I'm guessing, was the YouTube videos that were helpful? Awesome. For those of you that are not on YouTube watching this, rather you're over on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, go to YouTube. YouTube's where I have all my best stuff. I've got some really detailed tutorials and trainings about all kinds of stuff that you need to know if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success. Okay. That's what I want you to know. All right. Sajid, I was going to answer your question. You had a question. Your question was this. You said our interview was good. It was good for 3.5 hours, and the officer gave the pickup after taking sign. Okay. I think I get what you're saying here. The question is this. Is it a good sign when at the end of your asylum interview, the officer tells you that you need to come back in 2 weeks to pick up your decision, as opposed to the other option for getting your decision is when they tell you, oh, no, don't come back. We're going to mail it to you. So is it a good sign that they say come back and pick it up? No, it doesn't mean anything. It's not a good sign. It's not a bad sign. Look, the policy that they have for deciding how you'll get your decision has nothing to do with the merits of your case. It has nothing to do with whether it's a good, bad case, whether you're going to win or lose. Nothing to do with it. It's usually based just around where you live. If you live close to the asylum office, normally they ask you to come back in 2 weeks. If you live very far away, they say they're going to mail it to you. Sometimes there's other considerations that come into play, but it really is not about whether you're going to win or lose your case. That has nothing to do with this. You cannot take anything from this. The fact that they said, oh, come back in, or if they tell you it's going to be by mail, it's not a good or bad sign. It means nothing for purposes of that question. Okay. You said the interview was good for 3.5 hours. So that brings up a question. The question is this. So how long are asylum interviews lasting these days? And what does it mean if your interview is really short or maybe really long? Is that good or bad or what? So look, in the past, the asylum interviews averaged something over 3 hours, maybe even 3.5 hours. But recently, the last few months, they've gotten shorter because the asylum offices are trying to push a bunch of cases through as quickly as possible. And officers are trying to get 3 interviews done in one day instead of just the 2 that they used to try to finish in a day. And so they're having to make them shorter. And so we've been seeing that they've been getting shorter. They're maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2.5 hours on average now, compared to previously it was over 3 hours. So they're a little bit shorter now on average. Now, if yours lasts longer, 3 hours, 3.5, 4 hours, or if it's shorter, if it's an hour and a half, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose. It could go either way, despite that your interview is longer or shorter. So you can't really come out of your interview and think, oh, based on the fact that my interview was, shorter than usual, or just the same as the average duration, or took longer than usual. You can't draw any conclusions from any of those about your chances for success, whether you're going to win or lose. It doesn't really tell you anything about that question. Okay. All right, let's go to get more questions answered. I'm Brian Manning, asylum lawyer, and I want to answer your questions about winning asylum in America. Israel says, why are ICE lawyers better than private bar attorneys? You guys lose nearly every case/bond. Why? Interesting question. Thank you for commenting, Israel. Thanks for your question. Let me think about this. So, look, do you think that all defense attorneys in criminal cases are necessarily worse than government prosecutors? Because the vast majority of criminal cases result in convictions. Does that mean that the prosecutors are necessarily better than the private bar defense attorneys in criminal cases? Do you think that? Because look, basically it's like the deck is kind of stacked against asylum seekers in the same way that it's very much stacked against criminal defendants. Okay. It's just a logical fallacy to conclude that, oh, because more cases end up in a deportation order than an asylum grant, that the private bar attorneys must be worse than the prosecutors. That's just not, doesn't make sense. Not how it works. All right. But thanks for commenting. Let's see. What do we got? Let me know what questions you have about winning asylum in America. This person who looks like they don't have an actual handle on a name. This is how on TikTok. How is it going for people that applied for asylum case since 2016? Oh, then you say they did the interview for the green card but haven't heard back for 2 years. Look, I think you should probably consider suing the government to force a decision in your green card case. That's what I think. Okay. All right. Joe Tavares says, I did my Brian. He says, hello, Brian. I did my interview back in April. So far, I haven't heard anything. It was in Boston. Okay. Gotcha. Look, I think that the question is this. what can you do? What should you do? If you've been waiting for months to get a decision after your asylum interview with USCIS, look, reach out to them, send an email and say, hey, I have my interview on X date. I'm ready to provide the officer with anything else they might need from me so they can conclude my case. By the way, do you think you could give me an estimate as to when I might be able to expect that it will be done and I'll get my decision? Now, rarely, but sometimes, this is enough to move the case forward because it just basically gets sent to the officer and it reminds them, oh yeah, I've got this case that this person's waiting on. Sometimes that's enough for them to pick it up and say, I'll finish this one off. I'll spend the hour or whatever it takes to finish processing this case. Sometimes it works to get your case decided, to get a decision. If that doesn't work, then my question is, have you been waiting? Did you apply for asylum 5 years ago or more? If you applied for asylum 5 years ago or more, and you're now waiting months for your decision, you should consider suing. Consider bringing a mandamus lawsuit to force them to give you the decision. Because look, mandamus lawsuits, I usually talk about these in the context of forcing an asylum interview, but it also works to force a decision. Keep that in mind. Whatever on TikTok says, hello, I was granted asylum a year ago. Can I apply for the green card? Yeah, look, the question is, yes, you can, is the answer. But the question is this. After winning asylum, when can you apply for your green card based on your asylee status? Look, I think you should apply it immediately, as soon as possible. You can literally apply it the next day after winning asylum. Here's the thing. USCIS cannot approve your green card application based on asylum until you've been physically present in the United States for at least 1 year after having been granted asylum. So why would you apply right after you win asylum since you don't have a year of physical presence yet? Why would you apply? To get in line, to get in the queue. It's taking USCIS, last time I checked, something like 18 months to make a decision on this kind of application, this green card application based on asylum. When you apply, you're getting in that line, okay? And then 18 months later, when they pick up your application, they're going to look at it and go, oh, wait, this person didn't send evidence about physical presence for a year because they applied before they reached that year mark. So what they do is they send you a request for evidence, an RFE, request for evidence, where they say, hey, send us send us evidence of your physical presence for at least 1 year after winning asylum. You send it to them, and then they can approve your application. But by applying soon after you win asylum, you're getting in that line of 18 months. Instead of, waiting, if you wait for a year and then you apply, then you're at the back of the line. You're going to have to wait whatever the processing time is at that time, maybe 18 months, maybe less, but maybe even longer. So yeah, I think it's worth applying as soon as possible. Okay. All right. Sudden Glow Beauty says, would you advise someone to apply for asylum now after 3 months of staying in the USA? I think what you're getting at is this. The question is this. When is the opportune time to apply for asylum after arriving in the United States? So let's say you come on a tourist visa or a student visa, whatever the case may be. And you're thinking like, okay, I know I want to apply for asylum. Should I do it right away? Like within days or weeks or maybe months of arriving, or maybe wait until I get closer to a year? Well, remember, there's a 1 year filing deadline. So you definitely need to file in your first year. But outside of that, what is the best time, or before that, what is the best time? I think the sooner the better. I think it looks a little bit better in the officer's eyes if you apply soon. I'm not saying you have to apply the next day after you arrive, but within a month or two of applying, or 3 months, I think it looks a little bit better. It looks like you're someone who came here with the intention of applying asylum. It just makes you look sort of more serious rather than being someone who's like, oh, I've been here for a long time and I just finally realized I don't have any other route to stay here permanently, so I guess I'll try to apply for asylum. Okay. So yeah, and look, in addition to all of that, the sooner you apply for asylum, the sooner you get your work permit based on your pending asylum case. So that's usually a strong motivator for people to push it forward and apply sooner rather than later. If you want to talk about this, about applying for asylum, we would love to do that in an asylum strategy session. Look, we want to get to know you. We want to understand your case, your situation, analyze your case, and tell you whether we think we're in a position to help you. if we think that we are, we're going to explain how. We're going to explain concretely and actual specifics in detail what we will do to help you. Look, when you have this conversation with, I think, most lawyers, you're not going to get specifics about what they're going to do and how they're going to help you and how they're going to present the strongest case possible because they don't have a plan. Most immigration lawyers, I learned when I was an asylum officer with the government, most immigration lawyers don't have a strategy. They don't have a plan for how, or a framework for how to build a case, how to prepare a case, how to present a case. Okay. So if you call and do consultations with other law firms, I encourage you to ask them, tell me in specifics exactly what you're going to do to give me the best chance to win asylum. What is your strategy and plan, and what tactics are you going to employ to give me the best possible chance to win my case? Okay. Ask for details, ask for specifics. That's what we'll talk through with you in an asylum strategy session, which you can schedule right now. You don't have to wait till this live is over. You can go right now to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. All right, let's go to more asylum questions. What do you want to know about winning asylum in America? Okay. All right. Let's go to see what questions we have about winning asylum in America. 11CNEL on YouTube wants to know, hello, what is the current rate of approval of asylum for Haitians? Good question. The question is this. What's the asylum approval rate for people from Haiti? Look, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can tell you it's probably a lot lower than you would expect. It's lower than it should be, I think. It's easy to think, well, look, Haiti has a lot of very, very serious problems. Therefore, if someone's from Haiti, they should have a good chance of getting asylum here. But that's not how it works. Okay, that's not how it works. Unfortunately, it's hard to win asylum as a Haitian. Asylum officers tend to think, oh, well, you know, um, I know things are bad there, but you're not going to be targeted because of the fact that you possess one of the five protected characteristics under U.S. asylum law: your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. And it's hard to prove that sometimes, okay? But with a deep understanding of the law, you may be able to find a connection to one of those, even where it's not readily apparent that it exists. Okay. So, what I'm saying is, we would need to really talk with you to analyze your case and get to know you and get to understand your case to be able to tell you whether we think there's a decent chance for winning your case or not. Okay. All right. So, Jesus Christ is Lord says, hey, Brian, I have a pending asylum case with the San Francisco office. I applied in December 2024. I'm currently suffering a mental health breakdown because of the trauma I suffered in my country. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's tough. I hope you're getting the help that you need, okay? But then Jesus Christ as Lord says, I've asked the asylum office to expedite my case. They acknowledged receiving my request last week. Any luck that I might get a date early? Yeah, I mean, there's a chance. There's a chance. Um, I would say the likelihood is probably not very high. Unfortunately, it's pretty rare that they approve these requests based on what we call urgent humanitarian concerns. It's pretty rare, but it's not impossible. So hopefully you'll have a little bit of luck and get that done. But I hope you're getting some mental health support. Okay, and I hope that it gets better for you. Okay. Ahmad says, I went for an interview in New Jersey for asylum, and after 5 or 6 days, they called my attorney to come again for another interview. And you want to know? It sounds like you want to know why. The question is this: so, why does USCIS call people back for a second asylum interview or a follow-up asylum interview? Look, there can be many reasons for this. Sometimes it's not a problem. Sometimes it's not a bad sign for you. It doesn't mean you're going to lose. Sometimes the officer just forgets to ask you a question that they needed to ask you, or they didn't ask you something that their supervisor thinks they should have asked you, and so they have to call you back and do that. Sometimes it's short. Sometimes the second interview takes 10 minutes. But it's true that sometimes it is something more substantive and possibly problematic, like maybe they've just more recently discovered information that is negative they need to ask you about. I think that maybe you're a security risk, or they connect some dots in reviewing your file and they think that you're lying. And so they want to ask you questions about that. It's hard to predict, if you get the call that says, hey, you need to come back for a second interview, it's hard to predict why. They don't tell you why when they tell you that you need to come back in. So you just got to go into it prepared for anything. You got to be prepared for it to possibly be short and easy, but also for it to possibly be long and rigorous and maybe difficult and possibly with hostile questions. Okay. All right. Uh, Teo Malabar 92 says, what kind of questions on YouTube, what kind of questions can someone expect from the first asylum interview? I'm going to look, you must have just joined us recently because a few minutes ago, I commented on here. I said that someone, I think it was on TikTok, had said that they had their interview and they got the questions that I said that they were going to get in my training about the asylum interview questions. So look, Tio, I've got a training about this. I'm going to type it right now in the chat. It's at the URL asylumquestions.com, and it's a training about exactly that question that you asked. What questions am I going to get at my asylum interview? Okay. Go to asylumquestions.com. Okay. Yeah, I checked it just now to make sure that URL is still working, that's the correct website. It is asylumquestions.com. Okay. All right, Jutra Song TR says, LGBTQ plus case, Brian, is it okay if at a visa interview 10 years ago on a question, who were you traveling with? It said friend rather than partner, not married at that time. Instinctively scared to say such fact, even at the U.S. Embassy, but there was no plan to escape at that moment, so it can't be explained by a need. Should it be brought up about lying? Good question. And I appreciate that you're being very proactive with this, very thoughtful about this. Yes, you should. So look, at the end of the interview, probably near the end of your asylum interview, the officer's going to ask you a question, something like this. Have you ever lied or misrepresented anything to any U.S. immigration official or to any U.S. immigration agency or office, whether in writing or orally? This is where you would say, actually, yes, I misrepresented something. On my visa interview, I said that I was traveling, or on my visa application, whichever it was, or both. I said I was traveling with a friend, but really it was more like a partner. We were together in like a romantic relationship, so it probably would have been more accurate to say partner, but I said friend. Here's why, and you can kind of explain in a sentence or two why. That proactive approach is what I recommend. Okay. So look, the question here is this. So what is the trick question that asylum officers love to ask more than any other tricky question? Near the end of your interview, they usually say something like, have you ever lied to a U.S. immigration officer or said anything like in an application or orally regarding an immigration benefit that wasn't true, that was a lie or was misleading? And most asylum seekers are thinking about their asylum process, their case in asylum, and they're like, no, I didn't lie on my application. I've told the truth today in my interview. No, I haven't told a lie. No. And then the officer says, well, on my screen here, I'm seeing the notes from your visa interview at the U.S. Embassy or consulate that you went to for your visa interview. And the officer's notes say that you told them that, you were coming to the United States for tourism for 2 weeks. But then, earlier today in your asylum interview, you told me that, you decided to flee the country. You knew you had to get out. So you made the first visa appointment possible and you went to get your visa and you left. And those two things seem inconsistent, those two facts about, what your intentions were at the time that you went for your visa interview. And so you lied then at your visa interview, but then you lied to me again today when I asked you whether you've ever lied. In other words, you lied today about whether you've ever lied before to a U.S. immigration officer. And it's that second lie, that one that they think is a lie in the asylum office, even if you didn't mean to lie, that really hurts you. Because see, they'll forgive the fact that you lied to get your visa, but they usually don't forgive the fact that you so-called lied about it during your asylum interview. You lied about whether you've lied or not. So it's a tricky question. So you need to think back and be like, okay, what did I say and what did I put in my applications about my purpose for travel? And was there anything else at all that I said that was maybe not totally accurate? And just answer openly and honestly and truthfully when the officer asks you this. But I want you to know that this question comes up a lot so you're not caught off guard. Because when people are caught off guard, they just instinctively think like, no, I'm telling the truth about my asylum case. They're not thinking about their visa interview 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so they just say no, but then they get caught up in this trick question. But now you know. Okay. All right. You're welcome, Ahmad. You're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure. So, for those of you who just recently joined, I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now as an asylum lawyer through my law firm, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. All right, we help immigrants all over the country. Doesn't matter where you're located. All right. All right. Sudden Glow Beauty on TikTok. We should talk. I hope you'll schedule a consultation here at winasylum.com. Go to winasylum.com. WINASYLUM.com. Okay. She Baby says on TikTok says, can someone travel within the US with a work permit and social security, real ID, but still an asylee? Yes. Yes. Respect on TikTok says, my immigration case has been, I think you mean reopened. I got a new date, came up again. Yeah, they're reopening a lot of cases in immigration court that were what they call administratively closed. Okay. Uh, you gotta fight it. You gotta be ready. You gotta fight your case. You have no choice, probably, right? Other than to present the strongest asylum case possible. To be ready to hopefully explain your case really well and fight it on paper, explain it in writing, through a declaration, through evidence, through hopefully a legal brief that your lawyer is going to write for you, through country conditions information like reports and news articles about conditions in your country that your lawyer should be using and integrating into their legal brief, and then through preparation and representation. You got to do all this. I recommend that you do all those things to maximize your chances for success now that your case has been reopened, is again active. Okay. Uh, this is a tough question, Nathan. You said, what should I change my address to work for another state for 6 months and update again when I get back? Um, I guess what you're asking is if you're going to go somewhere just for 6 months for work, is that considered moving such that you would need to update your address with USCIS? This is a tough one. This is a close call because USCIS doesn't really. I'm not aware of anywhere that USCIS has like a very clear standard or definition for what it means to live somewhere, like what is considered your permanent residence, such that you would need to, such that you can know whether this kind of thing counts as moving, such that you would need to uh, do a change of address form. 6 months for work. Let me think about this. Um, Probably not. Look, if you know, if the plan for like your employer is telling you this is a temporary assignment for 6 months, after that you're going to go back to your normal place of work, which means you'll be going back to your normal house, normal address. I probably would say that that's not moving, that that's temporary, and that you don't need to do it. Don't need to do the change of address, but you have to ensure that someone's checking your mail, right? Okay. If your case is physical, like if you applied for asylum by paper, by mail with paper, meaning you're going to get your interview notice by physical mail, by post, then you absolutely have to ensure that someone is checking your mail like daily back at your permanent address, in case you get the interview notice while you're on this temporary assignment elsewhere. That's what I think about that. Okay. All right. Very nice. Very nice. Uh, hey, Brian. The asylum interview training you talked about yesterday, how much is it? Yeah. Thanks for asking. So, look, yeah, the question is this: how much do we charge for asylum interview preparation? It's a new program, all right? First of all, I'm going to tell you how much, but look, it's a new thing we just started offering a few weeks ago. I was thinking that there's a lot of people out there who need help with the most important aspect of their case, which, to be clear, is, in my opinion, preparation. The practice for the interview is the most important part of your case by far. It's much more important than what you say in your application form. It's much more important than what you say in your declaration. It's more important than having evidence. It's more important than having a legal brief from your lawyer. It's more important than country conditions information. It's more important than having a lawyer represent you during your interview. The preparation for your interview is the most important thing you can do to maximize your chances for success. And that's we have a robust program to do that for our clients. But then I realized, I was thinking recently, like, look, there's a lot of people that aren't in a position to hire us for a full representation. They're not in a position to hire us from like beginning to end, but I still want to be able to help them. And I want to do so in a way that is not as expensive as having to hire us from beginning to end. In other words, I thought it would make sense to come up with this standalone service that is just preparation for the asylum interview or immigration court hearing. And we call this the mock asylum interview experience. And to get to your question of how much it costs, $3,000. Okay, technically it's a tiny bit less. It's $2,997 for what we call the mock asylum interview experience. And the key is a mock interview, a practice interview, full scale beginning to end. But there's a lot more than that involved in it. We call it a mock asylum interview experience because it's a whole experience. It's more than just a mock asylum interview. All right. And if you want to learn all about this package, which we may be offering for a limited time, honestly, I don't know if it's going to make sense like financially for us to keep this going for too long. But we'll see how it goes. But for right now at least, I put a bunch of information about this on this page, asylumprep.com. You can find this at asylumprep.com, ASYLUMPREP.com. Go to asylumprep.com. You're going to find tons of information all about the experience, the mock asylum interview experience. Yeah, it's exactly. Okay. Nice. Which is better? A wants to know on YouTube. Hey Brian, which city is better, San Francisco or Seattle or Sacramento, are all in the same that fall under the SF office? Oh, so you're talking about an affirmative asylum case? Yeah, it's all the same because they're all under the jurisdiction of the San Francisco Asylum Office. So if you're in Seattle, if you're in Seattle, your interview could end up being in Seattle. They may ask you to travel to San Francisco, but more likely your interview will be in Seattle, but it will be done by an officer from the San Francisco Asylum Office who actually travels from San Francisco to Seattle to do the interview. And so, yeah, where you're living between San Francisco, if you're choosing between San Francisco, Seattle, or Sacramento, it doesn't matter because they're all with the San Francisco Asylum Office, which usually is the best. Like it usually has the highest approval rate in the entire country. So you're in good shape, as good as it can get. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Still does not mean they have a high approval rate. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy to win your case, but it is comparatively good, and it's usually the best place to be an asylum seeker. So that's good news for you at least, right? All right. What do you want to know, guys? YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. What do you want to know about winning asylum in America? Let me know in the comments what questions you have. Pari225 just asked on TikTok, how long is the asylum interview taking if you applied last year? The question is this: how long does an asylum interview with USCIS last? And does it matter when you applied in terms of how long you can expect your actual interview to be? The average duration is about 2 hours and 15, 2.5 hours right now of the actual interview itself, taking how long it takes to do it based on all of our clients that we've seen recently. And that's actually shorter than it used to be. It used to be about 3.5 hours, but now it's shorter because they're trying to fit more in a single day. And because asylum officers used to just do 2 interviews a day, now they're trying to do 3 a day, and so they've got to make them shorter. All right. The duration of your actual interview itself has nothing to do with when you applied for asylum. It doesn't matter if you applied last month, last year, 7 years ago. That doesn't really affect how long your asylum interview will be. Okay. But now let me ask the question, Puri, the other interpretation of your question of how long it takes to get an asylum interview. So the question is this: how long is it going to take to get your asylum interview if you're applying right now, as opposed to people who applied, let's say last year or 2 years ago, 5 years ago? Look, USCIS wants to schedule people as soon as they apply. As soon as they apply. When you apply, they look at your application, and then they look at the calendar and they open spots available into which they can insert people for interviews. And if there's availability, they immediately schedule them. Okay. Many people right now are getting their interviews right away. Many people who have applied in the last 6 months or so, and continuing through now, have gotten their interview within a month of applying, or maybe 2 months on average. And this is weird, right? Because there's people who applied a year ago who are still waiting, or 2 or 3 years ago who are still waiting. Now, the process behind this, or the policy behind this, is a little bit complicated, but and the reason why it's changed is complicated, but just suffice it to say that it is the case. It is true that if you applied for asylum more than like 3 or 4 months ago, you're probably not going to get your interview anytime soon. Probably not anytime soon. Okay. If you're applying right now, there's a good chance you will get your interview right away within a month or 2 or 3 of applying. Okay. So it's weird. It's a weird outcome, but that's just due to the policy of the government, and then also the fact that like no one's coming to the border and seeking asylum at the border makes it such that they're able to do interviews right now for people who are applying right now. But if you're stuck in the backlog, you're probably not going to get your interview anytime soon. Coconutty says, my interview was last week and my case was not approved. My court case is next month. Should I be worried? Unfortunately, I mean, yeah, it's a big deal. Look, the question, I'm sorry to hear that, Coconutty, but the question is this. So, should you be worried, and what do you need to do if you learn from the asylum office that they did not approve your case, and you get the letter that says, hey, your case has been transferred to immigration court or referred to immigration court? What does it mean, and should you be worried, and what should you do? Well, look, it's not good news. It means the asylum office decided that you don't qualify for asylum. It's like a denial. They don't call it a denial, but it really effectively is. Now you're in deportation proceedings. The government is actively trying to deport you. So yeah, you gotta take it really seriously. I recommend you talk with a lawyer right away, because you're close to receiving a deportation order. You do get another chance. You get a chance to present your case again before the judge, and the judge decides whether you get asylum. But you're in dangerous territory because you're close to possibly getting a deportation order. So you need to do everything possible to present the strongest case possible, okay, to try to win your case. The good news is that approval rates are actually higher in immigration court than in the asylum office. So it's not like all hope is lost. It's still possible to win. But I really hope you'll talk with an asylum lawyer really soon, to get this started so you can build the strongest case possible. Okay. We can talk with you about this. We love helping people get over this big challenge. You can talk with us by scheduling a consultation at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. Okay. All right. Oh, nice. we got Empower Boss Mom, who was on here yesterday and told everyone that that's one of our former clients, Ikram, up in Maine, up in the Northeast. She says, watching you from Maine, at Brian, get it done. Your asylum case with at Brian. Thank you. And Empower Boss Mom is saying at Coconutty, he might be able to help you. Call his office. Yep, Coconutty. Empower Boss Mom is right. We might be able to help you. We want to see. We want to analyze your case. We want to get to know you. We want to talk about your case, analyze it, and tell you whether we think we can help you. If we think that we can, we're gonna talk in detail about what the concrete steps are that we will take to maximize your chances for asylum success. Okay, that is what we will do. All right. That is what we'll do. How can we contact your office? Abdul wants to know. Abdul, I've got it on the screen right now, our telephone number. But look, honestly, better than calling is just going to schedule a consultation directly. You can do this quicker and just cut to it. It's easier, more convenient to do it here. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM. Abdul, if you want to possibly get help with your case, if you want to see if we think we might be in a position to help you, go to WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. Abdul says, I got this. What do you mean I got this? Thank you. You got what? You're going to schedule a consultation? I hope that's what you mean. I want to see you on our schedule, Abdul. All right. Alrighty. Let's see. BAUSAB04 says, I applied for asylum 4 months ago. How long might it take to get an interview? It could be right away. You're kind of on the outer edge where if they don't give you your interview in the next couple months, then honestly, it's probably going to be several years. But you're still in a time frame where it's still, I think it's still, there is still a real chance that you could get the notification very soon, like any day now or within the next couple months. Okay. So you got to be ready. I hope you're ready to put together a strong case. Oh, nice. Nayamaya says on TikTok, Brian is the man, I think, for asylum. Thank you. Appreciate that. Very kind of you. Okay, I'll call you, says Abdul. Awesome. Great. Yep, Abdul. Yeah, I just put the number up on the screen a second ago, but there it is again, 713-909-0401. I'm going to put it in the chat too for your convenience. Call us. Typing it now. 713-909-0401. Call us. Yeah, Abdul, call us. I mean, really, honestly, the best thing to do is just go directly to schedule it yourself at winasylum.com. But if you want, you can call. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Nice. 3AXPAH says, Brian, thank you. Asylum granted December 23rd by IJ in New York. Now I have a green card, married after asylum approval. Awesome. Can I still file an I-730 for my wife since it's been less than 2 years since my asylum was granted? Appreciate your guidance. Let me go back and read the facts again. No, not if you got married after the asylum approval. You would have to, unfortunately, I'm sorry I did not have good news on this, but you would need to have been married before. Let me address it like this. The question is this. Let's say you win asylum and then you get married and now you're thinking, okay, well, can I do the petition for my spouse to get status, to get asylee status through me now that I'm married? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. You would need to have been married before you got asylum in order to do this process using this form we call the I-730 or I-730 petition. It does not work if you get married after you won asylum. Okay, your only option now really is to apply for your green card. I hope you've already applied. I think people should apply for their green card immediately after winning asylum. Once you get your green card, then you can petition for your spouse to get a green card based on the marriage through you. But no, the I-730 will not be an option for you if you got married after the grant of asylum was issued. NA says, why is the case status changed from decision pending to application pending after an interview with USCIS? Because it's completely random and faulty and messes up all the time. You cannot put any stock into that thing, NA. That system just does not work. Don't worry, it's not a bad sign. I'm almost certain it means nothing, okay, for your case. So don't worry about it. All right. So Lester wants to know, or no, where did that go? Lester, it's tricky. I don't know. That's one of those Lester Godoy. You should talk with the lawyer who focuses on adjustment of status. That's a tough one. Yeah, it could be problematic. It could be. I can't tell you like, oh no, it's fine. You'll be perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. I cannot say that. Okay, it could be tricky. It could be problematic. Okay, I got divorced when my asylum was pending and married to an undocumented person now. I'll update that information with the officer on my interview that's coming soon. Do they forward this information to get him detained? So you're the principal applicant. Your spouse is not documented. So yeah, the question is this. Let's say that you're the principal applicant in an asylum claim, but you're married to someone who is not yet part of your case. They're not a dependent in your case, and they're undocumented. They don't have legal status. Are you going to have to reveal that information at your asylum interview? And if so, is that going to put them at risk of getting deported? So look, yeah, you are going to need to reveal it. The officer is going to ask you at your interview about whether you're married, and you need to tell the truth. They're going to ask those details because those details are asked for on the asylum application form. And at your interview, you're going to review that application form, and they're going to ask you all those questions that are on the form about your spouse. One of them is, what is their immigration status? So yeah, this is going to come up. Is it going to lead to your spouse getting like detained because they don't have status? Look, I've not ever heard of USCIS just passing this info straight to ICE and saying, "Look, an undocumented person, go get him." I've never seen that happen. That's not to say that it's impossible or that it hasn't happened. I think the chances of it happening are pretty low, but I guess there's always a little bit of risk. Okay, you could consider adding them to your claim as a dependent. They can be part of your claim, right? Such that when you win asylum, they win asylum. But if they are dependent in your claim, if you add them to your claim and you get a negative decision, then you'll both be put in deportation proceedings together. Okay. So adding them to your claim carries the risk that they will get put in deportation proceedings. But honestly, I think it's probably a bit safer. It's probably safer in terms of the possibility of being detained. It's better to be part of a pending asylum case than it is to not be part of one. So those are all things to consider. Okay. All right. Let's see. Very nice. Very nice. Big meat. I'm not sure I understand your question. You said, what if USCIS disclosure immigration case? Do you mean, are you asking like, will they tell people about it, like tell your government about it, or tell other people about that you've applied for asylum? Is that what you're asking? I'm not sure. Would you restate your question maybe in different words to make sure I understand? Uh, all right. Eastrar says moving from Minnesota to Boston for a job while pending case with USCIS. Yeah, unfortunately, you're moving you're moving to an office with a lower approval rate, unfortunately. So right now in Minnesota, your case is handled by the Chicago Asylum office. It has a significantly higher approval rate than the Boston Asylum office. Boston Asylum office is tough. It's one of the tougher ones, so that's not ideal. But yeah, if you got to go, you got to go, I guess, right? All right. Oh, nice. Black Panther says, I'm glad my asylum was approved last week. Congratulations, Black Panther. That's awesome. I'm super happy to hear that. Congratulations, Black Panther. Black Panther, let me ask you, did you see any of our YouTube videos? Did any of them help you? I'd be curious to know in the comments if you had a chance to see any of those before your interview, and if you think any of them were helpful. Maybe it would help for other people here to know like which ones. Like, did you see our 133 asylum interview questions training, or anything that was really stood out to you as being really helpful? Let us know in the comments. All right. Coconutty wants to know, how much will it cost if you take over my case from here after being denied asylum? So your case is in immigration court, right? Um, for this kind of case, after you applied for asylum, you had your interview with USCIS, and now you're in immigration court proceedings, $15,000. Okay, ton of work. Immigration court cases are a ton of work. But there's payment plans available. You don't have to pay all that at once. It's like a phased payment thing. So you don't have to pay all that at once. Okay. I think it's $5,000 to start is like the initial payment. Okay. Um, so look, yeah, we'll be happy to tell you all about how that works, and of course, all about how we think we can help you and what we would do to help you in an asylum strategy session, which you can schedule at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Look, let me ask this: is there anyone watching right now who has an interview scheduled, who already USCIS has sent you the letter and said your interview is scheduled and it's coming up? If you've got an interview scheduled with USCIS, let me know. I want to know in the comments. Tell me what month it's in, your interview, and what office, what asylum office, okay? Oh, nice. Black Panther says, yeah, I've been watching your videos. They really helped me get ready and have some confidence. You used a keyword there, confidence. You used the keyword confidence. You can, listen, guys, you can go into your asylum interview with confidence, even though it's hard to win, even though the approval rates are low, even though, um, it's daunting. You can go into your interview with confidence, feeling prepared and ready to do a great job. Okay. And I'm really proud of a service that we just started offering, a package that I put together to do exactly that, to give you confidence going into your interview because you feel prepared. Okay. And we do this through what's called the mock asylum interview experience. And I put together this webpage about it that I think you might find interesting. Asylumprep.com. Okay, go to asylumprep.com, and you will. I think you'll appreciate it. Okay. Um, yeah, asylumprep.com. All right, go check it out. Let's see, what was that Ikram set up here? Empower Boss Mom was telling at Coconutty his payment is fair. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not paying Empower Boss Mom to come on here and say all these nice things. That's a real client who is satisfied, who we helped win asylum, and they were happy with our work. So thank you, Empower Boss Mom, for coming on here and saying all these nice things. Appreciate it. Very kind of you. Okay, we got one. Bojangba32 says they have a asylum interview scheduled at the New Jersey asylum office. Oh, no. That's immigration court, right? Because you said September 2028. So that's immigration court, not asylum office. Got it. Okay. Got it. Well, cool. Look, that's a long way off, but we can still help you, including right now. We can do the mock interview preparation sessions right now. And yeah, this is actually a question that I get about the mock interview asylum experience. And the question is this: does it make sense to be a participant in the mock asylum interview experience, even though you don't have an interview scheduled yet? Look, we're talking about this special package that we put together to help prepare you for your asylum interview called the mock asylum interview experience. And the key is the mock interview, but there's a lot more involved than just that. And I can see where you would think like, oh, I don't have my interview scheduled yet, so it doesn't make sense for me to do this service yet, to prepare yet. But I'm telling you, I think it does make sense. Because look, we're going to do the mock interview with you, a 2 hour mock interview, and then a separate follow on 30-minute debrief session. And we're going to record those. And we're going to give you access to the recordings, to the video recordings and to the audio recordings, and to transcripts of those practice sessions, and to AI generated summaries of those sessions. And you're going to be able to benefit from this until your interview. Doesn't matter whether your interview is next week or in 2 years or 4 years or 10 years, you're going to be able to benefit from this stuff because we're going to give you access to these study materials so you can keep reviewing them. You can keep learning from them. When it's time to go into intensive preparation mode, once your interview is scheduled, you can intensively study these things. So it makes sense to do it now because look, I don't know how long we're going to offer this. To be honest with you, don't know how much financial sense it's making for my law firm to offer this service. So I don't know if it's going to continue for very long. So look, you might want to take advantage of it now. And you can learn all about it at asylumprep.com. Okay. ASYLUMPREP.com. Go to asylumprep.com to learn all about the mock asylum interview experience. I think you'll like it. Okay. Oh, interesting. Jay Powell says, can a person with ADHD be allowed for a written interview? Good question. I've never seen that question before. Very interesting. The question is this. If you've got some kind of condition or disability or something that makes it hard for you to do an asylum interview, can you do it in writing? Look, so the question specifically was about ADHD. The person has a hard time probably focusing, and it would make it maybe difficult to do an asylum interview in person with the questions and answers. But they think that maybe they could, focus, they could get it done better in writing. Can you ask the asylum office, hey, can we do this in writing instead of in an in-person interview back and forth? And the answer is no, unfortunately. No, they're not going to let you do that. They take steps to accommodate certain conditions and disabilities, but I'm almost certain that they're not going to accommodate this one, unfortunately. But look, you can at least get a health professional to write a letter that explains this, that you might have trouble because of this condition that you have, and that may at least help to explain why maybe it looks like you're having a hard time during the interview. And that can be helpful. So the officer doesn't just think, oh, this person's, not taking this seriously, or that they just maybe they think that you're lying because it seems like you're acting differently than you should or whatever. Having the explanation of why is probably something that you should look into trying to get from your health provider. That is going to be it for today, guys. I'm Brian Manning, and I am an asylum lawyer. My law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. And if you want to talk with us about possibly helping you, we want to talk. We want to talk in a consultation. So go to this webpage to schedule it, WINASYLUM.com. Go to winasylum.com to schedule your consultation right now, okay? Look, guys, it's Friday afternoon. I hope you have a great Friday afternoon and then a great weekend. All right. Thank you for joining us on the Asylum Answers show. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. And, sorry. Last thing, Lou, reason I'm afraid to apply for asylum because I don't have any documents. I did not plan to apply for it. That should not stop you from applying for asylum. You can win asylum with zero evidence. You can win asylum with zero documents in support of your case. You can win based just on your testimony. Okay, it's great if you have documents that help back up what you're saying, but I promise you, it's possible to win without them. Okay, you should not let that stop you from applying for asylum if you're afraid of being harmed in your country. And you talk with an asylum lawyer who thinks that you have at least a chance of winning. Based on the facts of your particular case. So we should talk. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. All right. Thanks. Have a great day and stay safe out there. Have a great weekend. And as always, it truly is a pleasure. It's an honor to serve you in your